It seems as though the days of the hot, boisterous post WrestleMania Raw crowds are officially over. Several years ago, when this phenomenon first started, you looked forward to that post WrestleMania Raw show. The crowd, they're going to be hot all night. You have a lot of international fans who are still over from WrestleMania. They're there at Raw, and a lot of big moments happen. You get returns, you get debuts, you get very shocking moments, you get storyline continuations, you get new directions, all that stuff on the post WrestleMania Raw shows. And in these last few years, it kind of dipped down. Of course, the last 2 years, there basically was no real excitement because one post Raw show was in an empty warehouse, and last year it was back in the Thunderdome. So there was nothing really that could be there to be special about it. But now, this is the first post WrestleMania Raw show in front of actual fans in almost 3 years. And the fans here, they just felt completely tired. And can you really blame them? We had WrestleMania Raw last week. We had WrestleMania SmackDown on Friday. That same night, we had the Hall of Fame ceremony. On Saturday afternoon, you had NXT Stand and Deliver. Later on that night, you had WrestleMania Night 1. The next night, you had WrestleMania Night 2. Both nights combined had some incredible moments, some memorable moments, crazy matches between both nights. Got the crowds all worked up. So now, on Monday, they're completely zapped of energy. They're just they're trying to react to certain things. They do pop for certain things, but overall there is just nothing. The crowd here tonight at the American Airlines Arena in Dallas, it was just there was nothing. But the task of WWE should be to put on a show that will boost their energy and captivate them and entertain them. And overall, they did not do that. They started with that. They started with a tremendous promo from Cody Rhodes. Everything about that promo from Cody Rhodes I loved. And then they proceeded to end the show with a Roman Reigns promo that was a complete waste of time. Roman Reigns' promo, at the end of the day, they were hyping this promo up. Roman Reigns is going to address the crowd. The new undisputed WWE Universal Champion is going to come out and address the crowd. They were hyping it up all night. And what happened? He came out and he basically said, I'll explain myself and what I'm going to do this week on Friday Night SmackDown. They hyped up all night what Roman Reigns was going to say, and what Roman Reigns said is that he will say what he has to say on SmackDown. Of course, there was a little bit more to it, but that was essentially all it was. A very underwhelming, flat, lame way for this show to end. Hello, everyone. This is DerekJ Speaks, and today we are bringing you the Monday Night Raw review for April 4th, 2022. As I mentioned, the post WrestleMania Raw show that top to bottom wasn't really all that great. You started strong with the Cody promo, ended very flat with the Roman Reigns stuff. In between, you had a few good things, a few exciting matches, a few cool moments, but the crowd was pretty lifeless for a lot of it. A lot of it really didn't feel that important or eventful, and it's just very unfortunate to see. But as I mentioned, the show did start strong. It started with Cody Rhodes coming out, huge ovation for Cody, and these fans were hanging on every word that Cody was speaking to them. Whether it was all bullshit or not, who cares? The Cody Rhodes character here in WWE was cutting this promo, and I thought he did a great job. He did a great job of establishing what his motivation is for being back in WWE. It's not just a simple thing as him returning at WrestleMania for the big pop and the big shock value of it. He has a purpose for being back in WWE. Now, what his real life, behind the scenes stuff reason is, that's not relevant to this. This was in character, storyline wise, what is his motivating factor for being back in WWE? And he pointed to his late great father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. He showed an image of Dusty up on the Titantron, an image of him in Madison Square Garden holding up a championship that he did not win on that particular night. But Cody made a vow a long time ago that he was going to win the world championship on behalf of his father and the Rhodes name in general, and he would present that championship to his father. But unfortunately, Dusty passed away in 2015, and in Cody's mind and his eyes, that opportunity had passed him by. But now he's thinking otherwise. He's thinking that now he has a second chance to get that moment and to go for it. He wants to become world champion, something that he could not do in AEW. They had the whole storyline where when he lost that match to Chris Jericho, he would never again be able to challenge for the AEW World Championship, and that pretty much limited what Cody Rhodes was going to do. They easily could have just lifted that stipulation at any point, create any storyline reason for it, but they chose to honor it throughout the duration of Cody's run. But now he's back in WWE, and that stipulation no longer applies to him. So Cody is motivated to be back in WWE to win the world title, and I appreciate that. This was a great promo here from him. It was a great, fiery, passionate babyface promo from him, emotional, all of that. Very unlike most babyface promos you see from other guys on Raw and SmackDown and in WWE in general. So great stuff here from Cody. It's just still so weird seeing Cody this way with theme music and all that on WWE television, but it's still great. So after Cody was done, Seth Rollins' music hit. He came out. The crowd was popping for him, singing along to his theme song. He gets in the ring, comes face to face with Cody. Cody drops the mic. You think for a second something might be going down here, but instead, Cody extended his hand out for Seth Rollins to shake, and both men proceeded to shake hands. So, a good sign of respect between both men. I don't know if this is going to set up a Seth Rollins babyface turn. For all we know, next week Seth Rollins could come out and lower the boom and go right back to being a heel, lay out Cody or something like that, and set up a rematch between the two of them at the next pay-per-view. But isolated here, after Cody Rhodes cut a promo like that, Seth Rollins coming out, shaking his hand, I think he even tweeted out something like "Welcome home," which looked like it was in reference to Cody. This could be setting up for Seth Rollins to transition into the babyface role, which wouldn't be that difficult of a transition for him to make because the fans have already been popping like crazy for him in the last several months anyway. They sing along to his theme song, they pop for him, they love Seth Rollins. He has regained a lot of that love and respect from the crowd that he once had several years ago. So if they wanted to go in that direction with Seth, I think they could do it. But as for Cody, it's clear what his motivation is, and hopefully they build on that. Keep bringing him out like this. Keep having him cut promos like this. Keep putting him in feuds that matter, are meaningful, and that gets the crowd invested and intrigued by Cody on this path to where you can build up to Cody Rhodes challenging Roman Reigns for the championship at SummerSlam, and not only that, have Cody Rhodes be the man to beat Roman Reigns for the championship at SummerSlam. After this promo alone, I am full on in support of Cody Rhodes being the man to beat Roman Reigns and win the championship. But if he can continue to cut promos like this one, if not even better, and maintain this goodwill and good faith with the crowd and be presented as a top tier main event level guy, I'm all for Cody Rhodes eventually winning the world championship from Roman Reigns, hopefully in a big match at SummerSlam later this year. We didn't get any anti-AEW stuff from Cody here. This wasn't a pipe bomb or anything like that. I wasn't really expecting that. All things considered, things ended pretty amicably and on good terms with him and Tony Khan. They just couldn't come to a certain agreement, but otherwise, it was basically shaking hands and parting ways. But here, this was just all about Cody being the valiant babyface looking to win a world championship, and I can get behind that. So, good stuff here. And unfortunately, this was the best thing on the entire show, and everything else that followed it really couldn't measure up. Up next, we had a tag team match. The new women's tag team champions, Sasha Banks and Naomi, taking on Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. Apparently the DX theme played in the middle of this match randomly, so a poor miscue from the production truck made everyone confused, but it really didn't impact the match greatly. Sasha and Naomi managed to get the win after some miscommunication between Rhea and Liv Morgan. Rhea didn't want anything to do with Liv after the match, and later on in the night, the two of them met up backstage, and Rhea told Liv that she spoke with management and the two of them would get a championship match against Sasha and Naomi next week on Raw. That makes absolutely no sense. The fact that they lost their match here on this show, yet are getting a championship match next week, makes no sense, extremely illogical, but I believe this is just going to set up a heel turn for Rhea Ripley. I think it is clear as day that that is the direction we are heading into, and I will do one better by saying not only should Rhea turn heel, but I believe she should be the next individual to join this new heel stable that Edge is seemingly forming here on Raw. We saw him and Damian Priest on the show here tonight. Not a great start for their stable based on the crowd reactions to it, but I still believe they have promise, and I think if you add a few more people to it, it could be very good. And I think someone like Rhea Ripley would fit in very nicely. But just for now, I do believe we're at least going to get a Rhea heel turn, and I believe it is coming next week. So as Rhea and Liv were leaving, out came Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens came out, they cut to commercial, come back. Owens is in the ring on the mic. He's talking about WrestleMania. He's talking about how great Stone Cold was. He made a mistake. He underestimated Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he was sure to make several excuses, mainly of which he had a bad back, and he really should not have even wrestled at WrestleMania to begin with, but he did so for the fans, for the WWE Universe. He wanted to perform for all of us. Such a valiant babyface Kevin Owens is. So Owens is talking, and then out of nowhere on the Titantron, we see the name flashed up, Ezekiel. And this random, jacked up white dude in trunks, black hair, shaved face. He looks like a creator wrestler out of WWE 2K22 or something like that. But as the camera got closer in on his face, he looked very familiar. It was funny though. When Ezekiel popped up, just the name Ezekiel, many people, myself included, thought for a fleeting second Ezekiel Jackson. But then this white dude comes out and they showed his face. He looked very similar. You could tell pretty quickly who it was, but it was funny because LA Knight was trending on Twitter because he honestly did look very similar to LA Knight. So I found that very funny. By the way, LA Knight, he better be on SmackDown this week. He better be coming up to the main roster very soon. I say just have him debut on SmackDown this week. He needs to be on the main roster. I don't say that for everybody in NXT, but someone like him, put him on the main roster. But this Ezekiel guy looked exactly like Elias because it was Elias. Even the commentators and Kevin Owens, everyone was pointing that out. But he denied it. He said he's not Elias. He is Elias's younger brother, Ezekiel. So he was going back and forth with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens got sick and tired of this bullshit. He told Ezekiel, you have 10 seconds to leave or else. And then Owens proceeded to do the countdown. He got all the way to 10 and nothing happened. Just Kevin Owens left and he walked to the back. And that was the segment. So I have no idea where this Ezekiel Elias stuff is going to go. They started airing those segments several months ago of Elias is dead and he was burying, they have on the tombstone and all that. So we knew he was going to get some kind of gimmick change, but we just did not know what it was going to be. He fell off the face of the earth. There was no mention for months of Elias, and now we see him repackaged here. New look, new gear, shaved face, all of that. And he's claiming to be the younger brother of Elias. So we'll see how it goes. I'm willing to at least give it a chance. But I have never been the biggest fan of Elias. I dug his gimmick here and there, but overall, I was never really the biggest fan of him. So we'll see if this new gimmick change has any difference on my opinion of Elias as a performer and as a character on TV. But I'm willing to give it a shot. Up next, we had The Miz versus Dominic Mysterio. Blink and you will have missed this match. A few bits of offense from Dominic, but just about 30 seconds later, Miz lays him out with a skull-crushing finale and gets the win. Rey Mysterio gets in. He's checking on Dominic when out comes Veer. Ladies and gentlemen, Veer has finally come to Monday Night Raw. For months, we have been seeing these promos and vignettes got turned into memes and jokes online of Veer coming. Veer is coming. Veer is coming. And now Veer has finally come. He came on Monday Night Raw and he came into the ring. Don't say nothing. I know what I'm saying here. He came into the ring and he laid out both of the Mysterios. Miz dipped out and Veer proceeded to beat the hell out of both Rey and Dominic. Poor Dominic got the worst of it. Veer locked him in some type of partial camel clutch, just wrenching back on Dominic, laid him out. The commentators kept calling Veer a lion, which was very appropriate because the dude legit looked like a lion with the way his hair and his beard is formed. He looked like a real lion. So I have no problem with that nickname. But Veer is finally here. All the months of jokes and memes and vignettes and stuff, it's over. So now it's time to see what he has. Next week, he's scheduled to be in a match against Rey Mysterio. I'm sure he'll get a big dominant win there. After that, the coming weeks, months, who knows? For all I know, this time next year, Veer will be either competing on main event in random squash matches, not getting on TV at all, or he'll be released. Either way, I don't know what the future holds for this guy, but God bless him is all I have to say. Up next, we had a segment with Bianca Bel-Air, the new Raw Women's Champion. She was wearing sunglasses, and she took the glasses off and revealed a devastating black eye. If you remember in the match with Becky on Saturday, Becky clipped her in the face as she was performing a dive off the top rope, got the edge of her boot right in the face of Bianca. It looked rough. Bianca was looking pretty droopy-eyed after the match, after she won the championship, and we see the side effects here. And it looked like for a second Bianca might be out to announce that she was going to relinquish her championship, but she did no such thing. She just cut a babyface promo talking about how she had to scratch and claw and fight her way back up to the top. And now she is there. She's the new champion. She knows how hard it is to get there, and she knows how hard it is to stay there. And she is going to be a valiant fighting champion week in and week out going forward. So nothing really overly original. She kind of stumbled over her words here and there, but I like Bianca. I'm glad she won the championship. I'm glad her storyline with Becky Lynch is complete, at least in terms of her getting her redemption from that 26-second loss at SummerSlam. I'm sure Becky will be back at some point very soon, and we'll get some kind of rematch between the two, but good for Bianca getting her moment. Up next, we had an NXT title rematch between Braun Breaker and the champion Dolph Ziggler. So the championship did not change hands on the show on Saturday, but we got the rematch here on Raw, in front of a much bigger live crowd and in front of a much bigger audience that was tuning in to Stand and Deliver on Peacock. So the writing was on the wall for what the result of this match was going to be, and it was exactly what you thought. It was Braun Breaker defeating Dolph Ziggler to regain the NXT Championship. Unlike Saturday, where that was much more of a back and forth contest, this one here, I don't know about you, but it felt very dominant in terms of Braun Breaker. He felt very much in control of the majority of this match, just tossing Dolph around. They did tease a similar finish from Saturday, where Braun ate a super kick and Dolph went for the pin, but it was only good for a 2 count. So when Dolph went for another super kick, Braun just cut him in half with a spear, got him up for the Gorilla Press Slam, and got the 1-2-3. Braun Breaker is the new NXT champion. Got a pretty good reaction from the crowd. They were into this down the stretch in those last 5 minutes or so. So good for Braun getting the big championship victory in front of a big crowd like this. Clearly, they want him to get as much exposure for his championship win as possible, and he got it here. So he'll be returning to NXT tomorrow night, I'm sure, and we'll see where he goes from here. They clearly have a lot of high hopes for him, so we'll see how it works out for him. Up next, we had a Bobby Lashley segment with MVP. MVP was in the ring first. He introduced Bobby Lashley. MVP made a point to reference the fact that Bobby Lashley won his match at WrestleMania without his help, that being MVP's help. So he brought out Lashley. Lashley's just yucking it up with the crowd, full on babyface here. Omos, after Lashley said a few things, Omos came out, wanted a rematch with Lashley, and then MVP lowered the boom. He took the mic to the back of to Lashley's head, dropped him down, and he instructed Omos to crush Lashley. He had him hold up Lashley. MVP slapped him a bit, put him in the corner, connected with the player's boot. Omos slammed him down, left him laying, and now we have the pairing of MVP and Omos. I mentioned in my WrestleMania predictions that I thought this was going to be how Omos would get the victory over Bobby Lashley, but clearly they wanted Omos to lose first. Lashley was mentioning in his promo the fact that he was just waiting for Omos to make one mistake so he could capitalize and get the win at WrestleMania. But now that MVP is in Omos's corner, that may never happen again. Once they made the decision to turn Lashley babyface and have him be the big new babyface on Raw, it was very clear to me that the days of him and MVP as a duo were going to be over. And it's a shame, because now the last remnants of the Hurt Business is completely dead. And to be fair, Omos desperately needs someone talking for him. He's not the best in the ring, but he's not really that great on the mic. And since they insist on having him in a high-profile spot on Raw, the least they can do is have someone who can talk for him, and MVP is a good choice. So, there you go. We were almost going to get another tag team match with the women. We had Queen Zelina and Carmella out there, but Zelina, before the ring announcer could even announce the opponents, she took the mic and was blaming Carmella for their loss at WrestleMania. She started flirting with Corey Graves on commentary, and this pissed off Carmella. She got in Zelina's face. She told her that you were going to be one of my bridesmaids, but now I'll let you just be a flower girl. So this led to a brawl. Zelina is kicking Carmella's ass. Carmella tries to seek refuge with her fiance, Corey Graves, over at the commentary table, but Zelina is still beating her down. She eventually leaves, and Corey is consoling Carmella, and the two of them proceeded to make out right there, and the camera was sure to get right up in their faces, getting all of it. This entire segment was a complete waste of time for me, but it did make me think. I could see and potentially be in favor of Corey Graves, who we know is cleared to compete, having some type of pairing with him and Carmella on TV. Would not be entirely against that idea. Something along the lines of Edge and Lita, or even Miz and Maurice. Something along those lines. Both of those pairings worked. Could something with Corey Graves and Carmella work? Maybe yes, maybe no. Just a fleeting thought, because nothing else about this segment really captured my imagination. But as I was watching the two of them suck face, basically, that thought popped into my head. So, who knows? Up next, we've got a 6-man tag team match. The team of RK Bro, the Raw Tag Team Champions, Randy Orton and Riddle, teaming up with the United States Champion, Finn Balor, taking on the team of the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos, and Austin Theory. This is just a crazy 6-man tag team match. Nothing overly special about it, just a lot of chaotic action going on. It ended with Theory hitting the A-Town down on Finn Balor, and just like majority of the matches we have seen between Austin Theory and Finn Balor, this one ended with Theory pinning and beating Finn Balor. Clearly, this is going to lead to a U.S. Championship match, and I'm sure Austin Theory will win the U.S. title. Not like it means anything. Balor's the champion, and he loses every single week, so it won't even mean anything, but that's the direction that I could see this going in for the next pay-per-view event. Up next, we had a segment with Edge, the new heel Edge. He was healing it up on the crowd, calling them idiots and losers. He introduced his new partner, basically, Damian Priest, who he called his punishment for the guilty. I thought was a nice, clever play on Priest's former ring name in Ring of Honor and on the Indies, Punishment Martinez. So out comes Priest, all suited up. He comes out. He proceeds to talk and explain why he joined up with Edge, and talking about how lost he felt going into WrestleMania and how he felt attached to Edge's message and all this. The fans could give two shits about all this. They started chanting, "We don't care," which Priest, he played off of it. He was telling Edge, there was a time where I probably would have been impacted by that. I probably would have been affected by it. But Edge, he responded by saying, "Not anymore, you losers." And the fans, of course, they chanted, "We are losers." So the fans already decided that they didn't care about this segment. They didn't care about Damian Priest, and they were going to make this about themselves. It's a shame, because once upon a time, Damian Priest was very much over with the crowd, but those days are long gone. Edge, he took the mic back. He was warning AJ to stay down, stay away, think about your family, don't get involved with me anymore. This brought out AJ Styles, of course. He took down Damian Priest around ringside, and he took down Edge in the ring. But then AJ went to the outside, was trying to get some chairs in to hit Edge with a concerto. But Priest came back in, laid out AJ. AJ got hit with a spear from Edge, It looked like they were going to set up for another concerto to AJ Styles, but then a bunch of referees and officials, including Jamie Noble, who got some chants from the crowd, all came in and stopped it. Edge and Priest left. Despite the crowd turning on the segment here, I still have high hopes for Edge and Damian Priest as a duo and this new faction that may be formed under Edge's leadership. Just a rough start here on this show. Up next, we had a tag team match with the Street Profits and Alpha Academy. Before the match even started, Alpha Academy attacked the Profits and they were fighting all around ringside. This brought out Adam Pearce, who changed the match to be a Texas Tornado match. The fans chanted, "We want tables," and by the end, that's exactly what they got. We had a very beautiful finish here, where Chad Gable was laid out on a table in the middle of the ring, and Montez Ford went to the top, came down with a picture-perfect frog splash, the best one to do it in the business today. He laid out, Chad Gable crashed right through the table and got the 1-2-3. The Street Profits win here. So the match was okay, but the finish, excellent. They ran down the card for next week, and then we got the closing segment with the new undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, along with the Usos, and of course his special counsel Paul Heyman. He told Heyman to explain to everyone the Bloodline success, and Heyman started to rattle off a bunch of numbers, a bunch of statistics, and all hyping up Roman Reigns, of course. Then Roman took the mic back. He said he is the last needle mover. He said he's a man of his word. He did what he said he was going to do. And he said whatever the next step is going to be for himself and the Bloodline, he will make it clear and announce it this week on Friday Night SmackDown. The copyright came up in the corner and the show went off the air. Like I said, a very lame, flat finish to this show. By the time Roman Reigns made his way to the ring, it was 10:52, 10:53, and I knew unless they got permission to have their overtime back, Raw ends exactly at 11 p.m. now, and it doesn't look like there's going to be much happening here, and nothing happened. Nothing was said. Maybe they ran overtime a little bit, so they had to cut things short here. Regardless, this was a complete waste of time and a very underwhelming way to go off the air on this show. But whatever. I like Roman. I like the fact that he's champion. I like the fact that we have one champion for however brief it lasts. I like that we have it. It's nice. But yeah, this was just a complete waste of time. I could have done without this. Looking back on it now, I think they would have been better off swapping the two bookend segments. You would have been better off having Roman Reigns just open up Raw and then have Cody Rhodes end the show, or have something else open up the show and have Roman somewhere in the middle, and then building up and hyping up Cody Rhodes' first public promo in front of the live crowd for the big show closing angle. Have Cody Rhodes cut that promo that he did, have Seth Rollins come out, the two of them shake hands. Probably would have been a far more satisfying finish of this show compared to what did end the show. It would not have saved it, but it probably would have been a nice way to go off the air. Whereas where things stand with what did happen, the show started strong with the Cody promo, and there was a few good things in the middle there. Braun Breaker win the NXT Championship, a few things here and there, but overall, nothing really special, nothing along the lines of some of those really fun, chaotic post-WrestleMania Raw shows from the past, and it's unfortunate. But we will see where things stand. We will see how things will go from here on out in the future, in the coming months. That's it for me. After covering all the big shows from this past WrestleMania weekend, I am done for a little bit. I'm going to be taking a break. I might be coming back soon, talking about some movies or TV shows, anything wrestling related, whatever it is, I'll be back soon. You're not going to get rid of me. Just taking a little break for a bit, but I will be back with putting out more content on this channel. I love doing this. I love talking to you guys. I love interacting with you guys. This is a lot of fun. And thank you all for joining the channel this past weekend with all the WrestleMania coverage here on YouTube, on SoundCloud, wherever you chose to listen to it. I thank you. I'm very thankful for you. And that's about it for me here. So if you enjoyed this show, hats off to you. I'm glad, happy for you. Say why, leave a comment down below, leave a like on this video, follow me on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on Twitter. Well, subscribe on YouTube, follow me on Twitter, all across the board at DerekJ Speaks. And I thank you again, and have a good night, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night. Whenever you're listening to this, take care, everybody.